So last time we spoke about the 5 levels of the human spirit that the Torah is here to develop. And that's Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechida. If a person would have access to all these 5 levels of his being, then he becomes a full human being. And so the entire work that we need to do while we're in this world is to develop these parts of ourselves. Because when we come in to the world, we have the potential for all this consciousness, for all this awareness, but in order to actually get that potential into manifestation, we need to develop our organs and our way of seeing life and our interactions with self and other in order to be able to develop all these parts of ourselves. So we discussed the nefesh being in the Olam HaMaaseh. So that's the first level of awareness that a person needs to gain, so that all the different dimensions that affect action directly, he is sensitive in those areas, he is aware of those areas, he understands his needs, he understands other people's needs. And then it moves to dibur, and this is the difficult one. This is where a person becomes aware of the level of ruach. Ruach is the koich hadibur, because within the koich hadibur manifest all our emotions. When we say a sentence, there are various different dimensions of reality that were consulted before we created that sentence within our mind. So even though it happens simultaneously, it's happening through a cause and effect procedure that if we were to lay it out on a table, it could have an entire book to explain just a single sentence of where was all that coming from. And so being aware of the dibur, being aware of the ruach, means being aware of midos, being aware of emotions. What do they mean? Because today, modern man is not very familiar with his emotions. Even the emotions he expresses are very brief. But for example, in the past, they would have an entire process for grieving, because that was the nature. The nature was that when a person grieved, he felt a certain way about reality, his body had certain responses, his mind has certain responses, and his spirit has certain ways it wanted to express those feelings and emotions in order to find relief, in order to integrate those feelings into its reality, in order for the concept to understand itself within you. And so this is additional development that human beings require in order to become alive in those dimensions, so that they can interact appropriately with each other and not cause each other damage. And so that's an additional level of life. Somebody who gains that level of life, that level of awareness, so he's more alive than somebody else. He's more real than somebody else. He is more what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created than somebody who hasn't fully developed those areas. And then it goes to the level of neshama, where a person becomes deeply familiar with his thought processes, what he's thinking, why he's thinking them, what he believes, why does he believe it, what does it cause him physically, psychologically, the fact that he believes certain things. So that level of awareness is called the level of neshama. We all have a neshama. And the neshama is the source of our thoughts. However, our thoughts, we imagine them in our brain, but really our thoughts reside in our entire body, because our entire frame of awareness is in thought. So if we think of ourselves, of everything we're aware of at this moment, it won't just include the body. It's going to include the things that are being said, the ideas that are being contemplated. It's going to include the associations that were awoken by those ideas. It's going to even include the physical field where your body is lying in. Maybe even the sky is part of your perception. The ground, the fire. And all these are not just experiences, but they're also buttons. They also bring with them associations. They also bring with them unconscious responses from within our very being. And so the level of neshama means being aware of everything that is within your perception. Because your perception is created by your neshama. That's the ultimate part of your intelligence. As it comes out min hakoich el hapoel, it creates your perception. And from there it bounces forward and it becomes speech and it becomes action. But without the level of perception, nothing goes forward. So within your perception is everything your neshama is telling you right now, everything your neshama is expressing to you right now. And here we're going to talk about the two levels that go beyond neshama, and that's because they refer to realities that are beyond our perception, that are what we call makifin. So there's the or panimi and the or makif. The or panimi is the three levels that we just spoke about, called nefesh, ruach, and neshama. These are the parts of us that come into perception, so they're within us. We have some type of a relationship with them. And then there's the makifin. The makifin is the part of our being that we don't perceive, however they're very much there. And so he says, there's two types of makifin. So in order to figure out what does it mean in the spiritual realm, as always, we're going to look in the physical. And so when you look at the physical, you're going to see that a person has two different things that he uses to protect himself that are outside of him. One is the levush. The clothing that a person wears is a way of covering himself, covering his reality, and so that he's not exposed to the world, and he's not exposed to the temperatures that are beyond what he can handle, and he's not exposed to being seen or feeling shame from other beings. So that has to do with something that directly surrounds the person and protects him. And the additional protection that he needs beyond that is called the bias, a house. A house is a place where he doesn't constantly have to stay there. However, he doesn't feel fully protected, he doesn't feel fully at peace and at home if he's not in a place that has been designated for his glory, that has been designated as a place where he can be. So even if we're traveling and somebody gives us a beautiful place and they make us feel very at home, so we feel like we're allowed to be where we are, but we don't feel the same protection, we don't feel the same intimacy with ourselves as we do when we're in our very own home, when we're in our own place. Because that place belongs to us. Everybody is agreed that we have the ability to protect ourselves within that space, and therefore it creates an additional level of comfort, an additional level of security. So these two levels relate to the two levels that we mentioned earlier, called chaya and yechida. So it says, "Alavisha makav rishon shesovev gifay. V'nikach yesh levush lekoich sanefesh b'zeh ha'olam, v'hem kechol inyon ha'olam v'tzorich sheyas levish shel chaya ad." So he's saying that just like the body has levushim that it covers itself in, so too the nefesh covers its machshava, dibur, ma'aseh, which are the three lower levels, the levels of the pnimiyim. They cover that with the level that's called chaya. And chaya is the life force itself. The life force itself protects the manifestations. The life force itself gives legitimacy to the manifestations. It says, this is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created me, and therefore I thought, I said, and I did whatever it was that I did. And this chaya, when a person becomes conscious of that chaya, meaning that even what's beyond your perception, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in the same way that He set you up to think and feel the way that you think and feel, He also set up all those things that are beyond your control to make sure that they're complementary to you, to make sure that they don't offend you. And when a person has that fully ingrained into his beliefs, that will protect his machshava, dibur, and ma'aseh, so that the chitzonim, which is the imagination that wants to hurt a person, doesn't have power over him. Because that realization will not allow things that are beyond his control, beyond his reach, to interfere with his perception, with his reality. If a person doesn't have this form of protection, he's always afraid of the unknown. He's always afraid of what might be beyond today, what might be beyond what I know, what might be beyond what I understand. And obviously none of us know what's beyond what we understand. And so we need a form of protection from that. And always in the spiritual world, protection is simply realizing truth. The truth that whoever created perfectly. That's the protection. Because as long as we don't have that realization deeply ingrained within ourselves, everything can scare us. Everything can throw us off. Everything can seem too big that we won't be able to conquer. And that's because our imagination doesn't really know. But our seichel can tell us that if the one who created perfectly, then we need to surrender to that. We don't have to worry. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to hide. And that's the levush. That's the protection that comes from the level of chaya. Everything, all the places from where things can emanate, all the possible things that exist, all come from the light of the infinite will to create us and to be kind to us. And that's called chaya. That's called that a person becomes alive, because then he becomes a part of the entire existence. He and the existence are no longer at war. He's no longer defending himself from the elements. He's rejoicing within the elements. He's celebrating the elements. He's realizing how all of them came into existence in order to provide for him, in order to give him this experience. And therefore, not only is he not afraid of them, but they empower him. Everywhere he sees God's creation, he feels stronger, he feels secure, and he feels like he's taken care of, and nothing bad could possibly reach him. And that protects his machshava dibre maisa. That allows him that he can think what is actually constructive to him, what can actually be helpful to him. As long as he doesn't have that protection, he might end up doing machshava dibre maisa that's not in his best interest, because he feels afraid or intimidated by the unknown, by things he doesn't know or understand. And through this protection, his machshava dibre maisa are actually serving its purpose. They're actually there in order to enhance his experience and in order to create better, in order to help. Oh, it says, buying a home, so buying a home, that's the ultimate level that a person can have in the spiritual. Like we see by David HaMelech says, im ovoi be'el beis im el eretz Yitzioy im emtza shnas im eten shnas laine lafa petnima ad emtza mokem lashem, that he won't rest, he won't sleep until he finds a space for HaKadosh Baruch Hu where we can recognize the unity in this world, and we can have a monument that's physical, dafka, that comes out all the way to the physical, so we can bring out from the yechida, from the innermost part of the neshama, where she feels the most safe, bring that out into the olam ha'maaseh, so that nobody can deny the fact that the unity is king, the unity is in charge. So nobody can bring one of the details from within creation and try with that detail to break the unity. And the only way to arrive at that safety is when all the levels of machshava dibre maisa are also consciously being designated to the yichud. Whoever is not doing it consciously, he might by mistake worship something else. And then when he does that, he's breaking the yichud with whatever he's worshipping, with whatever detail he thought is more important. He can break the world, he can ruin it. And so to create a Beis HaMikdash was to bring out into the physical reality the fact that we know that only the unity is real. Only the one who created for good and kindness is real, and all our ideas that we have against that, we made that up. It's humanity's problem that we made up thoughts and ideas like that. We created our own enemy. And so that was David HaMelech's goal. That as long as that's not clear, he can't find rest, he can't find peace. Because it means that the world is not in the right hands, the world's not being led to the right place. So that's the concept of a bias. A bias means that a person has full trust that he's in a place that he owns, and it's specifically designated for his comfort, and he has nothing and nobody to worry about that's going to come and remove him from that place, or going to come bother him in that place. This is his place. That's what a house means. And so to recognize the chelik hayichida shebenefesh is not simply to recognize that there are no other forces that can come and hurt you, but it is to recognize that all the forces are there to give you comfort. All the forces were created specifically for you. This is your home. This world is really Rishis HaYochid. It belongs to one. Who is this one? It's the spirit within all spirits. And we as his children inherited it. We get to run it because we're his children. We're a spirit. We're a human spirit. Every human spirit belongs to the bigger spirit, to the ultimate spirit. And this world belongs to him. And so everything in this world needs to be done for the spirits, and not for the individual spirits that might have illusions about what they want or need, but for the unity of the big spirit, where all of humanity can together be one spirit. Because to him this world belongs. To him we belong. He is who we are. And we can never be anybody else. We can simply forget and we can remember. But we can never be anything else. Nothing else is available within us to be. And so, to wake up completely means that a person has brought back his nefesh, his ruach, his neshama, his chaya, his yechida, to reside within him in peace. And this is why we have a Torah in the first place. This is the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to give us a Torah, is because we've lost contact with our reality. We've lost contact with what's happening inside of us. We've lost contact with what it means to exist inside of a body. And so we think we exist outside of a body. Our senses make us believe that everything that has to do with us is happening outside of our body. But that's not the truth. Our nefesh, our ruach, our neshama, our chaya, and our yechida, they all can only reside within us. We can only connect to them by going within, by discovering what it means to be us, by discovering that everything we thought we are, we're not. Those are just thoughts, and we're not thoughts. We're something else. We're something bigger than words, bigger than ideas, bigger than thoughts. We create those things at will, as we please. And so when a person gets to the level of Yechida, then it's like he built the house in the air of the world. In the koach ruach, a person can build a house. That house is built through understanding. And that's why we see that the word for boine, to build, is very similar to the word for bina, to understand. Because understanding is a spiritual building. When Nimrod wanted to build a migdal, they were using understandings in order to build the reality, in order to build something real. And this is how the Sefer Yetzira describes that two letters can build two houses, because you can change around the letters. Aleph, Beis, Beis, Aleph, those are two houses. Within those houses, we can create meaning. Av has a meaning, a father, has associations, has feelings, has whole personality. And boy, come. Different word, different meaning, different feelings, different associations. And these are all built with letters. And these are the ways of human interaction. With just two letters, we can bring out concept from within the unknown into the conscious mind, from the infinite into the finite, from the unmanifest into manifestation, simply using words. Words stimulate our machine. That's who we are. That's how we work. And so words are our food, and the kind of words we create, the kind of words we listen to, the kind of words that we think are going to define our experience. They're going to create our experience. They're going to give meaning to our experience. And so in order for the Torah to build back our nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the Torah comes with words. It's the only way to say something to a human being. It's the only way to interact with a human being. Is to, through words, to give rise within the brain to ideas and concepts that become reality. And that reality is going to animate the entire spirit, entire being, all the way till the physical body starts moving to accomplish the ideas that were ingrained within the mind. What's motivating the physical body to move the words that were originally said to the brain. And so through the words, we build ourselves a bias, ba'avir da'alma. We build ourselves a home within the atmosphere, within reality. And that home allows us to have the comfort and safety so that we can act, so that we can do while we're still in this world, so that we can be what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us to be. So he says, Ki be'emes, Bai shel nafshas ha'Yisraeli ba'avira da'alma, she'ein lo tfisa b'shum davar. Says the real home of a Jewish soul is ba'avira da'alma, in the atmosphere. That's all a Yid needs to survive and be happy, is some oxygen. Because a Yid's relationship with the oxygen should be so intimate, should be so exciting, that he desires nothing else. Because within the oxygen is the life force that HaKadosh Baruch Hu designated for him. That life force is HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. That life force is existence. And so, when a person recognizes his true nature, then he lives within the oxygen, he lives within the atmosphere. He doesn't attach, he doesn't cling to anything else. And so his spiritual home is everywhere. She'ein lo tfisa b'shum davar. A Yid is not supposed to have any connection to anything, including words. Even though we use words, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, when we're afraid, that's because we want to go to the Echad. Once we're by Echad, there's no words. Echad is the opposite of words. Echad is the source of all words. And so we shouldn't rely on anything in this world, in any other world, ideas, thoughts, beliefs, nothing. Because the one who created all of them is our Father. So we want to connect to Him. He's the source of all those things. He's not any of those things. However, when Klal Yisrael wasn't ready for that type of message, when Klal Yisrael couldn't live at that level, that's when they fell to the Egel, and that's when the clinging started. And we're still clinging, each one of us in different ways. And so to find the Yechida, a person has to be able to leave everything. Just oxygen. As soon as there's no more oxygen, then he goes to an even better place. He doesn't even need oxygen anymore. So that's the place of a Nefesh HaYisraeli. V'mukam kavoi avir d'alma, she'ein l'shem mukam kavoi klal, zeu kviyosam. When you don't have any place, that's your place. That's the place of a Yid. All the other goyim, they have a place in this world. They have a force in this world. They have a power in this world. That through that, they attain identity. They attain purpose. They attain meaning. We don't cling to any of that. That's what it means to have a Beis HaMikdash. This is how it began the Sefer. Ashkal Mikdash dekre Mishkan. Ashkal Mishkan dekre Mikdash. That the Mikdash is within the person. What's the level that we know that this person is a Mikdash? That's the Yichud HaGomer. Hakol Yachad Kol HaBrum. When a person within himself includes everyone, then he goes back into the Yichud. Shehakol Choy Zeliyas Echad. Shior Makif. When a person recognizes that he's one with everything, he's bottled to his Makif. His Nefesh Ruach and Neshama is his individual manifestations of thought, speech, and action. But when he goes back to the Makif and he goes back to the light that surrounds him, the light that surrounds him is infinite, everything together. And when he's mevatel himself to that, when he becomes that, when he's one with everything, then he has no individuality. Then he's a Mikdash. He represents the Yichud. He represents everybody. This is something people don't realize. We know that Beis HaMikdash was necher because of sinas chinam. And people think, oh, sinas chinam, Baruch Hashem, I don't hate anybody. Yet, the Beis HaMikdash wasn't built, and we know Kol Dorshan and Nivne Beis HaMikdash B'Yomov, Kilo Nechra B'Yomov. Which means that if today there was to be a Beis HaMikdash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would take it away from us, just like he did then. And the reason for that is because if a person wants to know if he's not Nichshel in Sinas Chinam, if he wants to know if the Beis HaMikdash is not Chorav because of him, he needs to check if he fully feels, if he fully experiences V'ahavta l'recha kamoicha. If he hasn't arrived at V'ahavta l'recha kamoicha, then he's over at Sinas Chinam. Because anything less than V'ahavta l'recha kamoicha is Sinas Chinam. And this is what we see here. Because we belong in the Yichud HaGomer, means we're really one. So if we realize the truth that we're really one, we would obviously love each other as we love ourselves. There's no other way. The only reason we don't do that is because we live in an imagined world where we're not the same as everybody else. Everybody is separate. And so that belief causes us to hate people for no reason. Because we're not separate. So that excuse is not real. It's fictitious. We made it up because it's too difficult to love everybody. And then we're separated. Then we don't look out for each other's best interest automatically. Then it becomes an effort. But when we are one with everyone, then everybody's problems and all the solutions that you have for their problems that you can make available to them suddenly become theirs and yours and everyone's. It's one being, it's one reality. We're experiencing ourselves through each other. So we are really one. And so when a person gets to this yichud, when a person gets to V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, only then do we know that he's not one of those people who is destroying the Beis HaMikdash by his sinas chinam. And so that's the level of the Yichud HaGomer, that's the level of Yechida. שהכל חוי זה ליאס אחד, שאור מקיף. וכאשר הוא כעניין זה, a person gets to this place, אז נקרא בייס מכון לשבט חילומim. Then this person is considered to be a bias, like a Beis HaMikdash, where Kadosh Baruch Hu can reside within for eternity. כי המוקם קבוע לבייס ישראל, אי אפשר אלא בעניין זה. Klal Yisrael doesn't have any other place where they can be. That's their nature. Klal Yisrael is a Mamleches Kahanim v'Goy Kodesh. Mamleches Kahanim v'Goy Kodesh means that they are designed with Chochmah. They were designed with wisdom in a way where they can't exist. Only when they're completely detached from any specific type of good. And they're only attached to the source of good, in whichever way it might come out. וזה מדרגת יחידה, שהוא כל כך מרגיש אמיתוס היחיד הגומר. The level of יחידה means that he feels so deeply the truth of the complete unity, עד שאין אלא יחידה בעולם, until he can't see anything else. This is the only thing that he can ever see. A person like that obviously can never have anything bad happen to him, because he can't see it anymore. He's lost the ability to differentiate between good and evil. And that's the definition of the Eitz HaChaim. That's eternal life. That's a person that nothing can ever shake. But Dvarim Arukim, these things are long. Lo Eise Ose B'Zeh Yoise. Now is not the time to gather these ideas together more. You see from this language, Lo Eise Osef, this usually speaks about the end of Golus, when all the sheep are going to be gathered again together. And because in this secret is the secret to the Gula, so he's not getting in more to the details of how this works, because he says this is not yet the time to tell you all this. People will have to figure this out through their own experience. People will have to start trying to understand what happens when we realize this yichud. What type of behavior is expected of us? What does a person like that look like? He doesn't look like us. He doesn't have any of our problems. So what is he busy with? What's important to him? How does he see the Torah? How does he see life? All this is up to us to find out if we can commit ourselves to this truth, if we can try to realize from within what this reality looks like. But ultimately, this has been the reality ever since the world was created and before. And this has been the reality now, and this is going to be the reality for eternity, like we say. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimlech Leilam Vod. And we say, Atuhu Atshela Nivro Elam V'Atu Mishnivro Elam, meaning these realities haven't changed. These realities have always been there. Our mind has changed. Our way of thinking has changed. Our ability to tell truth from fiction has changed. And so we have moved away from this truth. But this truth has always been true, whether we were aware of it or not. Even while we're suffering and we're not aware of it, that truth is still true. Reality still remains reality, but we're manifesting machshava dibra ma'aseh that cause suffering. Because we ourselves are not residing in truth. Our own understanding is off. Our own understanding of what's important and our own understanding of how to do it differently. And so it requires that we have our priorities straight. What comes before what? And anything having to do with the human being, anything having to do with the spirit, with consciousness, with awareness, with thinking, is more important than anything else in your life. It must be so, because first of all, it's the root of everything. It's the place from where everything comes. And so the root is always the most important. Anywhere we look, we'll see that a small difference in the beginning, small difference when we plant something, small difference when we create something makes a much bigger impact on the end results than anything that will happen later. And secondly, not only is it the root of everything that happens to us, it's also the reason we do everything. At the end of the day, what we want is to feel a certain way. That's why we do things. And so, it's soif maaseh b'machshava tchila. What you're trying to accomplish is, you're trying to accomplish to have that machshava tchila, and that's why you're doing the entire maaseh. And therefore, the machshava, the ratzon, is the key to your entire life, to your entire existence. And that's where your focus needs to be. Get rid of all the details and remember the core. Remember what you're trying to accomplish. Remember where you want to go. And that will guide you. That will lead you to the right place. Most of the time we get so distracted in the details that by the time we receive what we wanted to receive, we long forgot already what we wanted in the first place. So we have to keep contact with our neshama constantly. And remember why we're acting. What is it we ultimately want? And what we all want, the first thing we want, the first thing we need is shalom. Without shalom, we can't do anything. We can't enjoy anything. We can't experience anything because we're not available. Shalom means that we're home. First, I'm here. And then I can figure out what I want to do. But if there's no shalom, then I'm not here. If I'm not here, then does it really matter what's happening? And this shalom, this is what brings a person back to his spiritual self. This is what leads a person, this is what drives a person until he gets to this yechida. This is why the entire Torah is about obtaining shalom. V'nesati shalom ba'aretz. That a person will feel that he is fully home. Every part of him is there and happy to be there. And this is the key to experiencing a true life, to experiencing a real connection to reality. And from there a person will start appreciating what's happening to him. The appreciation will come on its own. A person doesn't have to be reminded to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as soon as he's not suffering. It will come naturally. And the thank you that we say while we're suffering, when we don't fully mean it, is not as powerful. To say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to feel it. There has to be a full body experience, because it's the heart really that's saying thank you. There's a specific feeling in the heart that's supposed to be taking place in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to receive our thank you. And when that takes place, there's a softening within us that allows us to interact with life in a more gentle and kind manner. And so this is the ultimate bracha. This is why by Birchas Kahanim, the bracha is Shalom. And the brachas in the Torah that come before the Toichache, the bracha is Shalom. Because the purpose of the Torah was to give a person back his peace. And to give a person back his peace means to give a person back his spirituality. To give a person back his value. To give a person back his ability to remember what a deep, rich, and meaningful spiritual experience he's going through. And how much he should rejoice and appreciate each moment and make the most of it. May we all be zoicha. That we should recognize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us here, and we should feel the greatness. We should feel how much He cares about us, that He gave us this opportunity, so that we can use it in the right way, so that we can make Him proud, and so that He can send us the Gula Shleim of Meher B'Yameinu.